Welcome to Seminole Sidelines. Happy Wednesday and a very happy early St. Patrick's Day to everyone. I think Florida State fans with wishful thinking got some thoughts about what they can do in 2024 with an ultimate fan experience. Florida State, it's been announced this morning, Wednesday, will play Georgia Tech in Ireland to open the 2024 season. It's a week 0 game. There's going to be a lot of bye weeks that year. We'll kind of get into that dynamic. This is a Georgia Tech home game, so Florida State not losing a game on the 2024 schedule. But this is a wow, Curt, to kind of a dream trip for all of us and all of the Florida State fans.
Hey, it's the day after my birthday in 2024. It'll be the game is the day after my 34th birthday. So could be a pretty nice way to spend that day.
You may have to make that an extended trip out to Dublin or the countryside.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if they're playing the next week. I feel like that's normally a trip where you might see a bye come after it. I guess the unfortunate thing is we won't know for almost a year because we won't know the full schedule until next January. I think the next game we know they're playing is September 14th against Memphis. That's when they're hosting Memphis. So we'll find out, I guess, if there's one or two games. I can't imagine two, but how the schedule lines up. But yeah, it's exciting. I mean, Mike Norvell, it's hard to disagree with Mike Norvell. I mean, there's a lot of there. I understand some of the fan reaction of why I do, because like Florida State isn't Notre Dame or one of the schools that has like a quote unquote Irish background, like Notre Dame makes sense to make that trip. But I mean, Mike Norvell talks about, and Michael Alford especially talks about, I mean, Florida State being a worldwide brand. And I think, I mean, if you're going to say that, then these are the kind of things you do to kind of cement that. I mean, Florida State was wanted. Like this was, I mean, a sought after. I mean, for all the talk about brands, Florida State was definitely desired to play in this game, and so to see it come together, and I mean, to see it be a conference game, start the year. I mean, even though we're still so far out from 2023, I think we all have a lot of questions about what that 2024 team is going to be like. So it's going to be a fascinating. Let the countdown begin. We're what about a little less than 18 months out?
It's a lot to look forward to. Mike Norvell mentioning in the press release from Florida State, this might be a 3 bye week 2024 season. So that's something that's really amusing. We've been talking all along how players need more breaks within the schedule. This coming year will be 1 bye week 2023. 2022 was 2 bye weeks.
Yeah.
I love the additional bye week concept just for building in rest for players. And when you take a lot of road trips normally, there's just a lot of, pounding in practices and games. And now this time you're building in the air travel over and back too.
I wonder if the timing of it, I mean, the fact that this game, I mean, if this game's week 0 going to be played on August 24th, that means week 1 is going to be played August 31st, like early, which is why I assume there are going to be two byes built in for everybody. And I know the season goes late that year because I looking ahead, I mean, the Florida game that year is November 30th. Like that's late for the Florida game. I mean, that's Thanksgiving is late this year. So yeah, you wonder if it was intentional by Mike Norvell with how things lined up of setting a date in the future of this will be a good year because most people have 2 byes. It gives us the chance to have 3. And I mean, what that can do for the team, I think is a big deal. And it's also, I mean, for the fans who will get to go, for the media, and especially I'd say for the team, I mean, it is a once in a lifetime experience. You have to imagine some guys going into their last year of eligibility now have to be kind of going, oh, come on, like, like a Jordan Travis or who have you.
Yeah, I think everybody is going to want to be on that travel roster. I mean, if you are, let's say, a 2024 arrival as a high school freshman and you don't maybe get the chance to make that trip, there's going to be some tough feelings among a bunch of guys. But Michael Alford has mentioned that the Florida State brand is strong. We've heard that storyline, interviews with you and Jerry, his presentations to the Board of Trustees. The brand is strong. The brand was strong, and that Ireland wanted a Florida State to play. Now, potentially, it's not just a national brand; it's an international brand. I'm really not sure where to go with this, but could this lead to interesting I won't say donors from overseas. Could there be business opportunities? Are there sponsorships, sales, fundraising? Alfred is playing chess when it comes to fundraising and sales. There's a lot here from a business aspect that I'm not sure I haven't even contemplated yet, but really, really could be intriguing just to see what might come down the road here.
Well, and like I get the side of, yes, it wasn't a Florida State home game they're losing. I don't think they were ever going to give up a home game for this. It was, but the frustrating thing I'm sure for some is you were losing a road game at the closest ACC team in Georgia Tech, and also Atlanta is kind of an FSU hub. It's probably outside of Florida, one of the bigger FSU alumni hubs. So there is a bit of frustration there. I think at the same time, though, I would bet it's not as big a group by any means. There are a group of Seminoles in that area who are thrilled with the opportunity of Florida State coming over there. I mean, they might come from the UK. They might even come from further into Europe just because, it's much easier than coming all the way to America for a game. So, it definitely puts them on a stage. I mean, we saw the stage Florida State's week 0 game this year kind of provided, even though that was against Duquesne. I mean, this is a more prominent, it's a conference game, and it's I think a game a lot of people will be watching. I mean, it is no offense to, what was it this past year? Wasn't it Northwestern Nebraska? Like it's a bigger matchup than that. I mean, Florida State's a bigger brand than either of those two.
Right, and we'll see. This is going to be there's going to be tons of storylines in the coming 18 months as far as how this came together, the football aspect, the business aspect. I'm with you. I think Florida State kind of sells itself nationally and internationally, and fun to talk about this one, even though we still have a 2023 season to play out. But we talked about the schedule getting better and better, the fan experience is getting better and better. I was thinking this morning, what's my favorite city that I've been to watch Florida State football? I know back in the day, a lot of guys who made the trip said Boulder, Colorado, Provo, Utah.
Yeah.
Those were some great games, great game days with the mountains and all that. If you made it to the Rose Bowl, either of those trips, unforgettable atmospheres there. The mountains, the sunsets. Probably want to forget the Oregon result, but the Auburn result was pretty cool, and a great game day atmosphere there for Florida State. Hey, I was looking forward to the Pittsburgh trip this fall, Curt. So hey,
Yeah.
going to Dublin, even the discussion of Dublin is pretty cool. Your favorite city where you've seen Florida State football, basketball, pick a city.
Not being kind of one of the guys who's been around who took some of those trips, I kind of came on the beat right after, unfortunately, the back-to-back Rose Bowl trips is the great bit of timing on my part. New Orleans last year was a lot of fun, and I think that was definitely a party city. And I think, on a different scale, because it's not going to be as many Florida State people in Dublin as there are in New Orleans. I think it could be a similar atmosphere over there. I think, it's I think regarded for it's a drinking town, isn't it? I don't want to go into stereotypes, but I think there's some truth to it. I'm not entirely like generalizing, but I think for those able to make the trip, and I realize unfortunately it's a much smaller group than probably could swing New Orleans, could swing Atlanta, I guess, for the game you thought it was going to be. But New Orleans was great. Getting to cover my first kind of year on the beat was the Peach Bowl year in 2015. Getting to cover in my hometown, and then I guess going there twice that year. I forget about the and then the Alabama game there. I've gotten to go to my hometown for Florida State games a few times. That's been great. I always enjoy a Boston trip. I guess those are going to happen a little less frequently now. They were kind of every other year, but there is one on the docket this upcoming year. But this is definitely, it's a step above, and it's something to already kind of be looking forward to.
Well, the old joke is Tallahassee is a drinking town with a football problem. Dublin, drinking town, some good football. Just this is the other football that's going to be heading out there. And I think, yeah, this could be really, really, really cool for Florida State to talk about for the next 18 months. All right, well, we have to dive in a little bit here on Florida State baseball, and let's not relive the 14-3 loss in great detail. I think we do have to talk a little bit about where this pitching staff is. Like Jarrett has said, razor thin a couple of times. That's been his words. The two positives, I would say, coming out of the UCF game Tuesday night, you didn't have to use Jamie Arnold, Connor Whitaker. We'll see who starts, who could be the opener on Wednesday, who's going to eat up innings. The storyline, I think, for this pitching staff in 2023 will be who can give you efficient innings, maybe in various roles that you just see as non-traditional. So, Curt, maybe play Link Jarrett, Chuck Ristano. If you have some choices, what are you thinking through about how to arrange the pitching rotation for tonight?
Yeah, I think you're going to see a few innings of Jamie, probably a few innings of Connor. I guess the problem with both of them is you don't want to use either of them to the point where they're not available this weekend. I mean, that's a Boston College team that's definitely, I think, tougher than you thought they were going to be. I mean, this is the only, I think, 5-game week on the regular season schedule for Florida State. 5-week game weeks, I think, are always a bit of a struggle, but especially for Florida State and kind of their situation, it makes things tougher. It's probably for the best. They don't have to deal with this again, unless I guess a regional went 5 games would be the only, I think, other occurrence of 5 games in a week. But yeah, it's I think I would go Jamie Arnold to start. I think a good thing that comes out of it, I mean, I think to date, I guess if Jamie Arnold started this game, it would change it. But to date, I think the first 4 midweek games for Florida State has had 4 different starters, right? They kind of haven't had one guy yet. I do wonder if Ben Barrett, who I know was kind of gave them some huge innings in the back end last night, could become that guy moving forward. You could talk about there's probably some validity to UCF was not kind of still going all out, being up by as much as they were, but I think he threw wasn't it 3.1 perfect innings to close that one out, and I think saved their bullpen definitely and their pitching staff as a whole a bit entering. I mean, a quick turnaround today, and then to going into the weekend where they have to kind of fill 3 more games. Yeah, it's moments like this where you miss a Wyatt Crowell and you miss not be able to get a few innings from him because you have a few other guys available for sure, but it's I mean they're in a tough spot.
We knew this was going to be interesting without a Parker Messick type of guy at the top of the rotation, but then it's also interesting without a Jonas Scalaro, a guy who could go out there seemingly and have 30 appearances or so in a season. And hey, we may see some of these guys rack up a crazy number of appearances, maybe an Andrew Armstrong. Connor Whitaker is going to eat a ton of innings, and we'll see how many appearances. The only thing I've thought about this whole process is they're going to have to figure out how to get Connor Whitaker out there twice a week. You have to figure out how best to get some of these guys 2 appearances without really giving them one long stretch. I think that you need some better starts. We need to see some better pitching from Carson Montgomery, clearly in a funk to start out this year. And hey, he's got all kinds of crazy stuff. He might snap out of that and really develop. We're not giving up on Carson by any stretch, but you need to see those kind of veterans give you better, more efficient starts if they're not going to be long starts.
Carson's, I would say, frankly, a little lucky that this pitching staff's in the state it's in, because I think if they had more options, I mean, this is a week after the last few starts he's had, you might explore throwing out someone else in that spot, but you don't really have a prime candidate. You'd kind of be stealing away from stealing from Peter to pay Paul or whatever, like you'd be depleting your bullpen to and it's kind of like the same you did last week, moving Y again. I mean, 2 of the last 3 starts have been good for Jackson Bomeister. I think you're going to need that again from him against a BC lineup. You feel good about Wyatt. You have no reason not to. I mean, the season he's had, I think a sub-1 ERA. There was a part of me that, like, after so many appearances, wondered how he would handle finally getting to start. And I mean, he couldn't have handled it much better. I mean, even the one inning where he walked the bases loaded to get out of it with 2 strikeouts and that ground out back to him was, I mean, that's just what he does. But yeah, you feel good about 2 of the starters are pretty good. And so, but yeah, if Carson were to snap out of it, it'd be a heck of a week. If you could get at least 5 innings from all 3 of your starters, I think that would be a pretty significant after having to get through these 2 games. And obviously winning one would be important, I think. I mean, obviously that one, in a way, kind of saved you. You didn't use a lot of your high leverage arms because you got down 5-0 in the first inning and it really got away from you, where you have a decent amount of those arms available today. But Yeah, I mean, it's not a desirable position, and you really can't afford to come back from this one 0-2 going into a series that I think is going to be a challenge by all accounts.
And we should say a lot of people are saying, well, why was the schedule made the way it was? Why would Link do this? This schedule was made before Link Jarrett arrived. This roster
Yeah.
is the previous coaching staff's roster, and there's some good talent there. There really is. There is some quality in the lineup, obviously. There's just some questions about the depth of the pitching staff. And really, Boston College, a top 25 team, is coming in over the weekend. This is a very, very tough stretch, especially with Florida on the back end next Tuesday night in Tallahassee. So it's just a high concentration of games that really, really matter, I think, from an RPI standpoint, all at once. Link Jarrett probably would say, no, I don't want to play 2 games at UCF, given where the Seminoles are from a pitching staff standpoint. If you can steal today's, though, maybe the split, the RPI is favorable just because you're playing a good opponent on the road, and it doesn't burn you so much.
You do that, and you find a way to win 2 or 3 this weekend. I think a 3-2 weekend against this schedule is a relative win. It's not like a huge roaring success, but it's not by any means a bad week. But yeah, you lose this one, there's some real pressure on you coming into the weekend to, I mean, not lose the series, I would say. You'd be staring down, a 1-4 week.
And we're seeing some younger arms develop, but I still think the pressure is on a Wyatt Crowell to maximize every start. Jackson Baumeister to maximize his start. And he's 5-6 starts into his career. So this is really early on for him. And like you mentioned, Wyatt made his first start after all those really spectacular long relief outings. So storylines to watch for Florida State baseball. The lineup wasn't very productive, obviously, Tuesday night. Still missing McGuire Holbrook, still missing Diamez Ross. We don't really have solid updates there, but last Thursday, Link Jarrett didn't seem super optimistic on those guys. So maybe you're looking toward Boston College without those 2 for right now. But we'll have more.
I mean,
go ahead.
Things can change a lot in a week, but I think it was last weekend. It was, we're not going to have them against Pitt, and I would say it's not likely we're going to have them against Boston College. So who knows? I mean, I'm thinking we're going to talk to Link tomorrow. It's a weird week because they're going to get back tonight, and they have to turn around and I assume do media tomorrow. So we might get a little more clarity, and we'll definitely share that on the website. But yeah, it's I mean, they're missing both those guys. I think both those guys. I mean, the ups and downs are going to come over a season, and the last 2 games, especially really this game, kind of showed the down. I mean, it's not been as hot as they were early in the season. But yeah, the problem with Florida State is kind of this team doesn't have a pitching staff really to top to bottom to pick up that slack. They kind of need a lineup that just mashes, and when they don't mash, bad things happen.
And they have to play better defense. There were 2 errors Tuesday night. Yeah. I mean, look, Colton Vincent's been great all year. He threw behind a runner on a steal attempt. Jordan kind of bobbled or double pumped, on a throw to first and didn't get a quick runner down to first. So these kind of things are going to happen. The error total is jumping a little bit, but Florida State definitely has some things to clean up here, and we'll see what that happens Wednesday afternoon. Game 2 against UCF, 4 p.m. on ESPN Plus. Well, now let's move over to women's basketball. Again, it is March Madness. The Seminoles are probably in the air right about the time we're talking here, heading up to Iowa City. Tanaya Latson looking good that she will be back in the lineup to start against Georgia, the number 10 seed on Friday. It's a 1:30 p.m. game on ESPN2. Brooke Wyckoff is sort of like a Mike Norvell. She will not discuss injuries, the health of the team, but everybody was there. All 10 of the players were there at the selection show event Sunday night. This is a roster that I think was worn down throughout the season, but really everybody got some good rest there. They had a lot of practices where they just focused on fundamentals and really not knowing your opponent. There's not much you can do from a game planning standpoint, but an ideal break, if there ever is one for a women's basketball team that just had to wait almost 2 weeks between games, this was coming at the right time for the Seminoles. Curt, Florida State's going to play Georgia. Some of the girls are familiar with the Bulldogs, a couple of SEC transfers on the FSU roster.
Yeah.
So I think there is a path for Florida State to get through Georgia here. Then the question is, how do you match up with Iowa potentially in a Sunday game too?
You're right. It does bear mentioning. I talked about this last week. Iowa last year, as a 2 seed, lost to 10 seed Creighton in the second round. So there's absolutely a world, like there's a precedent that's been set. And I think if you're going to pull an upset like that, having a player like Tanaya Latson, who's capable of going otherworldly, kind of going nuclear, helps that. But I mean, you're right. You got to worry about Georgia first. It wasn't the best finish to the regular season. There were reasons for that, but they kind of faded down the stretch. So we'll see what the reset does for them going into the game against the Bulldogs. I think it would be, I mean, going kind of one and done last year. I think winning one and then seeing what happens against Iowa and just getting to that spot to have a chance to pull the upset, I think is what this team needs.
Yeah. Well, Arya Masudi will be on the road with the women's basketball team. He'll obviously be on the radio call again Friday, 1:30. If you're not able to watch on TV, you can always kind of sneak a listen to his call. Florida State women playing Georgia. Again, that's Florida State 7 seed, Georgia the 10. And we'll get a chance to talk through Zoom. I think Tanaya Latson will be one of the interviews on Thursday afternoon. So that's also a good sign. If you're putting Tanaya out there, it means she's fully healthy, a full go for the tournament. All right, the other tournament, the men's basketball field of 68 tipped off Tuesday night. There's a bracket challenge on our basketball board by Alumni Hall. They're giving away a $300 in-store card for the winner and a bunch of cards for the top, say, 2 through 10. So go ahead and fill out those brackets. You can go to the basketball board on the Osceola.com, do a login, and it's really quick. I did mine. I have picked a bunch of 12s to upset 5s. I've got some 10s upsetting 7s. Have you done a bracket yet?
I did do one on the Alumni Hall Bracket Challenge. I'm trying to remember who was in my final 4, but yes, got to have a 12 over a 5. I did have, I think, 1 or 2 10s over 7s. It's always, I think I had Oral Roberts making a run, starting by beating Duke. I remember, I mean, I think they're kind of a better version of that team that beat Florida and made a run to the Sweet 16 2 years ago. Yeah, in the Indianapolis COVID tournament. And so Max Aismans, I know, is a heck of a player.
If you're thinking about those 5-12 upsets, Miami is a 5. Duke is a 5. We'll kind of see how this plays out, but the committee always seemingly puts those 5s against a very competitive veteran type of 12 type of seed. Should be fun to watch those games. Some of the best sports days on the calendar are Thursdays and Fridays when the NCAA tournament is just loaded with games on the men's side, and of course the women's side, tipping off on Friday too. All right, as we wrap up, quick nod to the FSU men's golf team. Gray Albright won the Seminole Intercollegiate on Tuesday afternoon, 10 under. He was 5 shots better than the runner-up golfers, a couple of his Florida State teammates. Florida State really dominated this tournament by 38 strokes. I was out there Tuesday. The wind was definitely whipping, so Trey Jones admitted that local knowledge definitely helped out the Seminoles a good bit, and the wind was a factor. The course is very challenging, but I think everybody enjoys playing that challenge of this particular course. So good confidence for the Seminoles going down the stretch into this or going into the middle part of this spring season. Well, I think that's where we're going to kind of wrap up today's show Wednesday on Seminole Sidelines. We'll be back Friday. Ari and I are going to put together a women's basketball preview show for them. We'll kind of, get you through with some analysis and interviews, 12:30 p.m. Eastern on the Osceola's YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook. We'll try and get a one-on-one with a player or two to kind of get you ready for that 1:30 tip for the Florida State women against Georgia. So I appreciate Curt Weiler joining us, senior writer from the Osceola. I'm Bob Ferrante, managing editor of the Osceola. We appreciate your time. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you again Friday.